Well, thank you, Shirley, for that introduction, and thank you, Olive. I'd like to say a special thanks to Olive for one, inviting me to share her platform here this afternoon, with Terry, of course, as well. And that's it, basically. I mean, you've been a great mentor and support over the last 2 or 3 years. I'd also like to welcome everybody for coming, friends, family, and guests, and for all of those who have contributed to my journey on this, well, basically this book, which is here. That's what it should be there, there you go. Okay, it's called A Season of Lifeform, and it's a fictionalized account of an extended polo season, which began in 1989, and it details the Irish polo team's adventures in Pakistan, and in particular player Tom Stanning's search for a lost and vulnerable friend, Joe Henderson. Tom's own lifelong passion for his sport intensifies following death, divorce, moving house and country, all within 6 weeks. And the polo itself does provide a keel to stabilise his life, and with his handicap, his passport, he discovers sexual liberalism, duplicity and tragedy once again, this time in South America. Now, I didn't actually set out to deliberately dispel the popular misconceptions of polo as typified by cucumber sandwiches washed down with pins on Smith's Lawn at Windsor, and maybe croquet on horseback, some would call it. But I do hope I've blown the top off those myths anyway, because there's not a roar in sight, which helps. One Dublin publisher did actually discuss this with me, did actually describe it as, I thought this was a great word, a hybernicized Jilly Cooper. And I protested, and he said, well, that's high praise. I said, okay, well, she gets the bums on the seats, but I said, I'd like to think that mine's a damn sight more hard-hitting than that, based on memoirs and not research. So I hope to reveal the game in the raw, its savagery and passion, best expressed in both its Latin professionalism and Asian origins. So I'm going to move on past the Pakistan episode, which is actually quite a large proportion of the book. But I want to bring in Joe at this stage, who is a very dark character, though jovial, and he likes to drink a lot, etc., and has a very checkered past. And we find him now in California, where he's putting together. He's a musician, he's a jazz musician, a very good pianist, and he's very successful. And he's in Malibu, staying there where he's cutting an album, and he's looking for an assistant. So, Malibu. When bodies ceased their labour and spirits began their work, the night's candescence found earth through the lambent glowworms in the dunes. The click of crickets syncopated the fall of the shore, and Henderson lay back in the brittle cushion of dry grass. His thoughts awash with tone and colour, flowing without settling. Since checking out of the Valley Clinic, Joe knew at any time the impatience of his racing heart would propel him back to that musical landscape of his own making. 6 weeks rehab had done less to modify his state of mind and more to fuel the frenetic creative process that had driven him since his youth. In late September, he had taken the beach house for 2 months and installed the baby Steinway. The interviews for a new assistant had not gone so well. Only one of the young women had any potential. He was interviewing the third girl, a blonde actress from Huntington Beach, when a vision passed his window. The gates of heaven must be open. I think I saw an angel just walk by. What lines would need to be drawn? Why had experience, weathered and seasoned by the disappointments of love in other places, constantly confounded his judgment as it again beckoned? The laconic woman from Seattle, Sophie Santillian, handed him her resume. She was lithe, lissom and lovely, a brunette in a white dress with a European accent. She could give him 3 months. I like her silence, but is she tender? New in town, she asked if there would be a room for her and insisted on the key. That evening, his new housemaid called him for drinks on the deck, and they sat, listening to the caressing calm of the ebb tide, the setting sun sinking beneath the ocean. He went to the cooler for frosted vodka. Empty. In the glass door, he could see the girl moving before the Pacific backdrop, horizons converging. Funny, I could have sworn there was a bottle here. I chucked it, she said. Who said you could do that? My time, my rules. For a moment he lost her in his own reflection. He heard her damp footsteps on the deck. A palm brushed his ear to cup his cheek. He turned into it, when, as if to a bruise, she pressed her lips to his, the way cold water might surcease a spring. This for luxury, not of pleasure, but of pain, hunting for what she least dared to find. He tensed, flushed, then froze when she said, "You think I simply want to make love? God, haven't we had enough of that?" He withdrew from her embrace, abashed by his desire, her rebuke. They retreated to their rooms, both wide awake, alone in their feelings. At daybreak, sitting on the prow of his beached dory, looking back to the cottage, he questioned his motives, as if he were still alone. If complementaries were not obliged to be lovers, could they coexist, simply as part owners of each other? What would it take to placate a sexuality he had always assumed? Just then a broken accent called from across the water. "I hired a boat." He turned to see the girl from the northwest approaching the beach. "Why don't you follow me up?" "Sure, why not?" he answered. At about 200 yards she dropped anchor. "This is far enough." She went back with him. They ate breakfast outside, discussing the album he had to complete before the end of November. His session musicians included jazz pros, a Celtic violinist, and classical flautist. A generous advance covered the outlay. The studio time allowed would be more than enough. With 14 tracks planned, the manuscripts and his annotations would be copious. He was ready. How did she feel? She referred him again to her resume. Sophie Santillion, 1955, born Montreal, Canada, father Mexican, mother French-Canadian. 76 to 79, Conservatoire International de Musique de Paris. 76, singer. 82, 86, partner, Roussel Galleries. Henderson could not have known how, as a student, she'd been drawn by the potency of the jazz and blues clubs of Saint-Germain and Odeon, the Latin Quarter. Her vocal range developed at the Conservatoire was her passport to the left bank. She would often sing 3 or 4 venues in one evening. From the first time she heard Etudes de Paris, Joe's pièce de résistance, her heartbeat fixated. Collision was unavoidable. His compositions were complex, troubled, phrases constantly reaching for the 13th note, hung pauses, hinting at ending, never quite getting there. More than any musician she knew, Joe touched her deeper than her heart. He found a place within her that no music, no Frenchman had come close to. Her introduction to his music 2 years earlier on the island of Montreal was by a pupil, a parting gift. She played it one last time before handing it to her teacher. The crackle of stylus and vinyl disappeared when the pianist launched into a tirade of riffs and power chords, not unlike the Maharaja, Oscar Peterson. He scaled the octaves rapidly, caressing every note with a gliding touch. Its urgency then arced, pulling her with its sweep into a denizen of insight. Drained she always, wanting more. When he told her of the peace inside him he had struggled with for so long, she led him to the water's edge. They looked out over the Pacific, and she asked him what he saw. Horizon, sea, bright sky, paling moon. It inspires me. I just want to get started. I looked at the water. What do you see? I'm not with you. Just look, Joe. Well, I can see your boat. That's right, and you've already made it that far. His muse had found me.
Hola, buen días a todos mis amigos en Argentina. Bienvenidos. Grande beso para todo usted. Hasta luego. Esto es mi libro, Una temporada para Moria. Muchas gracias.
We're moving to Argentina now.
Asia, man took a momentous step forward, a discovery which would change his concept of time and distance forever. The discovery was the horse. In time, the destiny of man and horse would come together and ultimately become one. From this unity came the game of polo.
Okay, Tom's moved down to Argentina. There have been sightings of Joe, who's gone AWOL, in one or two spots, but nobody ever seems to quite catch up with him. The trail runs cold every time. And anyway, he's had to put him behind him for the time being. Tom finds himself living in a house north of Buenos Aires, in a town called Pilar, where he's basically incarcerated. His car's been removed from him, and this is basically because he's the gringo with the cash, and they want his dollars, they don't want anybody else getting them. But he does get one night and a day out, where he travels up country to an area called Las Heras, the Studlands. I suppose it's rather like the Curragh or Newmarket. The morning air fresh, still overcast, he followed Estefan to a corral with 40 or more horses, where Estefan told him to choose a mount. There would be no time to try any of them. Whatever he liked the look of would be his partner for the day ride. The first benign eye he saw, he selected, and the groom attached a leather head collar to the bay mare and led her to where a rug and saddle sat on the corral fence. A bit with single rein was fitted and a cloth girth fastened the saddle. Esteban gave him a leg up. The mare was responsive through the seat and he moved his weight forward. Her mouth was sensitive to the bit, he would need to ride light. Estefan, Manuela and Mateo were joined by two grooms, Julio and Franco. The men wore black berets, except Tom, where Manuela's blonde hair lifted from her neck as they cantered the path into open countryside. Tom's mare, still lively, gave him a sense of oneness as they followed the group. The men spoke quickly in Spanish, laughing with familiar laughter. These friends had shared many equine experiences, growing up in families that had done the same before them for generations. The Dominguez Estancia had 150,000 hectares, a vast tract of Buenos Aires province, split between cattle breeding mostly, separate from the family-run stud. Julio and Franco worked the stud as their brothers and their fathers before them. Tom envied more the weekend gaucho lifestyle, but he admired the dexterous handling of the grooms, checking their horses' mouths and teeth, fitting shoes, pulling tails, fitting bridles with gentle assertion. The healthy condition of the ponies reflected more than diet. They were well tended. In the avenues, the jacaranda had lost their bright summer colours, the acacia more brown than green. The thickening pile of the fall floor covering crinkled as the sun dried it. They stayed mainly to the pathways through this vast farm, flat, little grazed for the first 2 hours, the sun now on their backs. Preoccupied earlier with the insects of the night, now far from his thoughts, a sense of mission narrowed within the tree cover as the 6 riders, some seated, some like him, forward in their saddles, cantered over leaves and twigs with a tamping tom. A susurration of disturbed dead wood harmonized with a growing syncopation as they turned to see foals following. Have they come from the yard? Tom looked at Manuela. See, they're beautiful. They stay with us all day. There must have been 10 or more young ones as they rode alongside, intermingling with their mothers. As if there was a spirit common to all, they rode out of the woods onto the plain, the horizon ever distant. During the next hour, they passed just one house, timber, painted pale blue with veranda and a tiny lawn. This is the house of Carlo Basualdo. Here, friend, we see him on the way back, Esteban told them. And they stopped at a dry copse. The riders dismounted and removed the tack from their ponies. They let them roam freely with their foals, who went with them to a narrow stream to drink. Julio took a haversack from his back and began to gather small twigs into a pile with leaves, which he lit with matches. The heat rippled from the flames beneath the shelter of a small jacaranda. From his bag he pulled a flat, round steel plate, about 8 inches in diameter, and placed it on the burning wood. He handed dust to the edge of the plate to stop flames licking up onto it. Then he placed 3 stakes on its surface, the The sizzle split the quiet in their lunch place. Franco had breadsticks, plastic plates and goblets, and the picnic was set. He opened a bottle of wine and they shared the pale pampas beef, their asado. Tom lay on his saddle rug beneath the branches, basking in the midday warmth. He heard only the foraging of the horses. Manuela stood over him when they had finished their siesta. Now we go see Carlo. Okay, well, from here he returns to Pilar, but he's very frustrated. He needs to know about Joe. He wants to get to his friends in Buenos Aires, and he finally manages to purloin the keys to the car and makes a break for it. He needed to break out, realize his wanderlust for the city, Buenos Aires. He turned right at the Panamericano, an ambitious concrete freeway intended to reach from Tijuana to Tierra del Fuego. The fortunes of such a project, subject to the protean nature of a continent devoid of federacy, is reflected in its state of disrepair, as well as our country, its abrupt stoppages, where road and money just ran out. Its uneven sections ridged and fallen from edge to edge, pocked with potholes so large the tiny French car made crashed landings on entry and crunched collisions on exit. Concerned as he was with punctures and broken wheels, it was the looming shadows of mobile megaliths in the shape of carcass-laden frigorificos and cumbersome traded horse lorries heading for the European meat boats that began to box him in, the three-lane option reduced to the confines of a gauntlet. For 20 miles within its corridor, the convoy beat the approach. All he could do was hang on and trust his car not to break up. Blow after blow hit his seat, his spine absorbing the aftershocks, repeatedly ejecting him into the roof. Just keep it level, boy, keep it straight. Hold on, little one. He needed to open the window. The smell of oil, the overheating gearbox beside his right leg, turned the aroma of tack leather from new saddles, bridles and boots to a clawing clot, stifling the cabin air. He held the steering wheel with both hands, gripping hard. No respite. The charge continued to carry him and his wheels for a further hour. Lights dawning in the distance, he caught sight of the city exit sign. Before it disappeared beneath the leading truck, he read, Buenos Aires, Centro de la Ciudad. Made it at bloody last. Well, nearly. He pushed down his indicator. Would they let him in? He waited longer. How much longer? He'd miss his turn. Come on, come on! The trailing truck eased back, lights flashing. He pulled across the lane, straight down the exit road. Jesus, that was close. Their farewell, a cacophony of klaxons, his fanfare. Maybe they had his interests at heart. Maybe this was acknowledgement for the sport he'd given them. More Latino schadenfreude. Channeled through the parkland of the city limit, a braking zone of choking chicanes, the power drive of the truckers from the tranquil gaucho hinterlands interfaced the throbbing centre of the sleepless city. Out on through the trees, Avenida Libertador presented a 13-lane tarmac option. Window down, he heard birdsong, circadian clicks, caught glimpses of fading bloom, coxcombs, and felt a rush of zest from a cool breeze. The freedom he quested on the struggle down Survival Alleyway now fell on him and his battered automobile. They both took in the air, easing towards the traffic lights. He threw his hands through his hair and wiped his brow, blood beating hard in his temples. The short time it took for the lights to change was enough to form a serried line of autos, mostly black and yellow cabs, either side of him, engines revving, clutches riding. On green, an enfilade of missiles launched across the start line, and they all roared the distance to the next phase, a 2-lane punt into the first barrier. After the frustration of the Panamericano, he now expressed his own kind of aggression. He hit the floor, valves crashing at the top of each gear. God knows where he was going. He just had to get there first. He did, 12 Fangios trailing in his slipstream, charging down the throat of Recoleta. At the end of its drag, the Libertador slowed to a street of cafes and evening promenaders. Tom Stanley had found equilibrium with the city's pace. Now he was cruising with the promise of its pulse. I don't know how we do time. One more piece, perhaps? Okay. Well, he's ensconced himself in the Buenos Aires way of life and had a very good time. He's gone one weekend to a place called Wally Wai Chu, and that's spelled with a G. And I think it's one of the most beautiful names of a place I've ever heard. So I'll just say it again, Wally Wai Chu. He's gone there for the weekend. They've partied, they've barbecued, they've played chuckers. And when the weekend's over, they're returning to the city. On the Puget crossed the San Martin cantilever toll bridge over the vast Uruguay River. A sharp sheet of lightning 50 miles long shot over the horizon. Then another, then more. The crimsons and purples lit the skyline with the menace of a Caravaggio. Mighty thunderclaps ensued, and they were silenced by their noise more than their threat. Rain cascaded over the car, their visibility reduced instantly to its length. Their outlook opaque, the penetrating chiaroscuro continued, and with more than 200 kilometers ahead of them, this would be a difficult night. If they broke down, they could only move the car off the road and stay inside until the rain stopped. Eduardo cut the lights when the flashes came. If only for a moment, the way seemed clearer. They could only pray that nothing had stopped ahead of them. The potholes on the Panamericana would be their next threat. Take it easy, Eduardo, this road can destroy a car, Tom warned. He'd seen vehicles on their sumps, suspensions cracked and wheels buckled. Eduardo knew the road a lot longer, and he negotiated the lanes from experience, with less manic apprehension. The rain eased and they made progress, a moist breeze through an open window, cleansing the air. They exited the main artery to the city, through the trees that gave onto Libertador, its many lanes a skid pan, and slowed to the lights. No other cars as they turned green. They moved towards Alvear, deserted by the Boulevardier. No tables, no chairs, no more gazers. No trysts or rendezvous. The clean atmosphere might have been more welcome had he not been feeling a sense of foreboding, as if the party was over. He stepped from the car where they left him at the foot of the one-way Cajana. Mañana, buenas noches, and heard only the soft splash as the jute of his soles met the pavement. The concierge was not at her desk when he took the lift to his room. There would be no clubbing that night. He closed the window. He read in bed a movable feast, a favourite hand, until he slept.
Special moments, when man and horse become one, polo transcends mere sport. The player is in tune with himself and the very forces of nature which shaped him.